everybody. Welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you all here. Whether this is your first of these sessions for kicking off AI fluency that you've joined us for, or if this is week 3 and you've been knocking them down one at a time, super excited to have you with us. Go ahead and throw in the chat where you're joining us from would be great, but you know what's even better? I am so food motivated, it's not even funny. So if you could tell me the best thing you've eaten in the last 48 hours, that would be amazing. And I'll live vicariously through the chat and it will fill me with joy. And I'm already seeing amazing answers. Oh, chocolate chips with peanut butter. I like how you've really broken it down to the fundamentals. I don't know that anyone's going to beat that answer of hot bread with butter, though. Good luck to you all in the chat as you attempt to one-up hot bread with butter. Some quick housekeeping. As you fill the chat, please keep going. Homemade candy that your wife made. Steve, jealous. Housekeeping. I already saw the question pop up. Is this being recorded? Yes. This session is being recorded for you, and it will be sent via email as soon as it's processed. You'll likely have it by tomorrow. Another question that often comes up in the chat, people get stuck on really specific stuff. Now, you're probably noticing from the chat, there are hundreds and hundreds of people in here, so we can't troubleshoot one-on-one in this format. Instead, you'll see something called Copilot. I'll point it out when we're building. Use that to chat through any live help you might need, just like you're having a one-on-one with me. And finally, you absolutely do not need to have previous experience to join this session today. We are going to build step by step. You just need a free Zapier account. So if you don't have a free Zapier account set up yet, go ahead and do that now while I'm doing the housekeeping stuff. All right? Then you won't be doing it when we're building. Oh my gosh, so many great questions in the chat and also so many great foods. I need to not look or I'll get too hungry to keep going. Another piece of housekeeping, if you have questions, please go ahead and drop them down in the questions area. So I'm already seeing some questions come in the main chat. That is where they're going to get lost because there's a lot of discussion. So lower right-hand corner, there's a button that says questions. You can add them there, and you can also upvote questions that you would really like to hear the answer to. And then at the end, I'll answer some of them. And then the other thing is, if you find yourself thinking, oh my gosh, Emily, your face is taking up so much of the screen, and I wish it wasn't. You can make me smaller, and you can make my screen bigger by dragging that gray bar like you see pointed out on the screen to adjust the size. And just a heads up, a few of my teammates are here today, so you might see them in the chat, picking off questions or adding insights. Molly, Bryce, anybody else from Zapier, thank you so much for helping out here. All right, let's dig in. What are we doing today? What the heck are we doing together? We are going to start by defining AI automation. We're going to share a real AI automation example. And if you were here for the last 2 of these, so far 3 sessions, it's a new example. We're also going to give a quick overview of the tool that we're going to use to build today. And then we're going to dive into building. So your hands will be on keyboards. You'll be building with me before some Q&A. So again, if you haven't signed up for a free Zapier account, now is a good time to do it so that you can have your hands on keyboards when it's building time. But before that, a lot of you know this, especially if you know me from LinkedIn. You know that my background is in learning design. I am a teacher first and foremost, and something I know is that setting your intention or your goal is really important for succeeding at it. So externalizing it, sharing it with people will make you more successful. So that's why I'm going to ask you in the chat to tell me 2 things. Number 1, go ahead and tell me your role just so I can get to know you. And number 2, what is that New Year's resolution you had that brought you here? So there's an example on the screen. It says, I might be a benefits analyst, and what I really want is to automate an hour of my daily work with AI before the end of the year. So go ahead, add those in the chat. I want to learn why we are building in the first place, because the why is super important. Ooh, really good. Oh my gosh, the first one I saw from a head of people ops is being able to confidently say no more often. And I also see another one about being able to prioritize your most important work and improving your interactions. These are fantastic. This is right in line with the topic we're going to tackle today. And the basics of what we build today can be reused to build all sorts of automations with different goals. So while we're about to tackle a specific topic, I want you to think broadly about like how this could show up in your work. These are fantastic answers in the chat. Please keep them coming. There's no wrong speed to type at, so feel free to keep finishing your answers and dropping them in there. I'm very excited to read them. Another thing I'd love to hear in the chat, where are my people pleasers? Something in a lot of these resolutions that brought some of you here today is overcommitment. So I want to know where my people pleasers are at. I'm seeing already in the chat, uh-oh, it's me. Oh no, lots of raised hands. Today we are going to focus on a build that is going to take us from drowning in really unfocused yeses that are killing us inside to confidently working on the highest impact and most important priorities by staying really anchored in what actually matters. So today we're going to go from what you see on the left, which is me just going, sure, and quietly dying inside, to me not only saying no thank you, but explaining my priorities and rerouting this person to resources that can actually help them, that are not me. And to start, we're going to dig into the tool that we are using today. We are, most of us, really familiar with AI chatbots by now, right? Most of us have seen or used like ChatGPT. And prompting ChatGPT is like having a conversation with a really smart assistant who responds anytime you ask. So the example we always give is, it's like talking to Google Maps. You have a question, you open the app and you say, how do I get to the movie theater? And then it gives you the answer and you can act on it. That's great. But as soon as that conversation ends, so does the usefulness. You have the information, but you have to take you to the movie theater. Today, what we're going to be building with is AI agents. We're going to use Zapier agents, and that's more like hiring a self-driving car. You say, I want to get to the movie theater, and then it does the work to get you there. So an AI agent is like hiring a virtual assistant and giving them a permanent role and equipping them with access to your apps and workflows. So instead of answering questions just once, your agent is continuously able to act on your behalf. It has your context and your goals, like not being a people pleaser. And it doesn't just chat, it actually does things. It can send emails, it can gather context from the internet. It can use over 8,000 apps to do meaningful work. It's great at things like extracting information, summarizing, classifying, writing. And with those things, it can then go and take up to 30,000 actions using your work apps. So there are a few apps on the screen here, but if you use something you don't see, if you're like, oh, I use Notion, go ahead and explore what else is out there, because there's over 8,000 apps. And it can do those things automatically if you want it to. You just tell it when to wake up. Okay, I mentioned this already. So agents are those autonomous workers. One flavor of agents, one brand, is Zapier agents. Today, we are going to be building with Zapier agents. We're going to do that because we only have an hour together, and they are so simple. We can get one completely functional in that time, and they're so powerful because they have access to over 8,000 apps. So they're the right choice for us today. You can create as many agents as you want. And the most important thing here is the simplicity. We're going to use plain, natural language. We're not going to use code. We're going to tell it its role, give it access to our tools and whatever data or context it needs, and then give it those instructions and let it work. Here is an example of a real Zapier agent use case. This is one that I use I'm probably not exaggerating to say 100 or more times a week. It's a to-do capturing system. And you can see, you can actually read it just like a page in a book. It doesn't use any code. It uses human language and a few tools to act as my teammate. But how do we build something like this? Where do we even start? The way it works is we always start by asking ourselves, what should wake our agent up to start working? That's known as a trigger. So we think, what should trigger this agent? And we figure it out by filling in a when-then sentence. When blank happens, then, bleh. And that first blank is our trigger. So in this example here that I built, it's when I use the to-do emoji to react to a Slack message, and then we fill in the then. So when I use the to-do to react to a Slack message, then blank. And the then steps are written using plain natural language. So in this case, I wrote, when I use the to-do emoji to react to a Slack message, then I want you to analyze the whole Slack thread to figure out what I'm being asked to do, determine how urgent it is, find time on my calendar to work on it, book that time to make sure I actually do the work so nothing slips through the cracks. And finally, we add any tools we want wherever we need the agent to use a specific app or visit like a specific website. We add tools in order for it to actually execute the work. So I know a lot of us are afraid of rogue agents because we see them in the movies, right? Like you build a robot and then it takes over the world. Our agents can only take the actions that we give them. So for example, in this agent, I needed it to be able to read a whole Slack thread to understand the context. So I gave it the action, retrieve a whole Slack thread. I needed it to be able to read through my Google Calendar to see where I was busy and free to book that time. And I also needed to give it the power to create events on that Google Calendar. And you might notice that there's no OpenAI or Claude step in here. There's no AI step where I had to put in an AI tool. And that's because the agent itself is built using a large language model as its foundation. So our agents can analyze, summarize, extract information without adding another AI tool in. Now, one more note before we start building, so start stretching your fingers out because we are about to start. AI agents can be super simple or they can be so amazingly complex. But when I say that, I always want to caveat it by saying complex does not mean they're hard to set up. You've seen it. I just write it with normal language like I would to a colleague. It just means complex agents can take more actions, multi-step actions, and execute a wider variety of tasks. Sometimes we want to build a really simple agent with a super limited scope, and sometimes we want to build them more complex. Today, when we build together, we are going to start by building a very simple agent that works, and then we'll add on some complexity to make it do even more for us. All right. Whew, we got through the whole spiel. Now it's time to jump into the product and start building our Zapier agent. Now, if you have two monitors, which some of us do, some of us don't, now is the time to set one up with a window where you can see my video stream. And then on your other monitor, you're going to want your agent that you're building. So remember, we set up our free Zapier account. We're at zapier.agents.com. And we've got that all set up. You're going to want those on two separate screens if you have two monitors. Now, if you don't have two monitors, that's fine too. But I recommend you set us up side by side so the video is next to the agent you're building, just so you're not flipping back and forth. All right, a reminder, people pleasers, what problem are we solving with our agent? The problem today is that every single task feels urgent. And we don't want to disappoint anybody or let anybody down, and that makes it really hard to stay focused on what actually matters. So today, our solution is building a prioritization AI agent to help us confront all of those ad hoc asks that we get in our day-to-day and really help us align our yes or our no to those top priorities. I'm going to switch now to being able to see my agent. Love that people are sharing the link in the chat. Awesome stuff. I'm going to switch over now so that I'm right where you are, agents.zapier.com. And I warn you, when I open this, mine is full of many, many agents. It's messy. Yours, thank you, Bryce, for populating the link. Yours is likely not going to have all these agents, and that's just fine. We're going to build our first one together today if you haven't yet, and that is going to require us to click the big button that says New Agent. There's one on the left, there's one on the right, either way. New Agent. And man, look at this cool box that pops up. It gives us a big list of templates we could use. It even says I could just describe what I want my agent to look like, and it'll build it for me with Copilot, which is amazing. I highly suggest you try that out sometime, but not right now. Don't break my heart. We're not going to use Copilot right now. We are going to start from scratch, all the basics, one at a time, so that we really nail understanding what agents can do. So we're going to click the button that says Start from Scratch. It's purple text in the upper right-hand corner. I click it, and it will load up a blank Zapier agent, a brand new one. Okay. Before we even build, I want to start out by saying there are hundreds of people in here. In the chat is blowing up. Some of you might get stuck, or you might be trying to troubleshoot something really specific. And when that happens, because there are so many of us, and I can't stop and troubleshoot with you one-on-one, I want to ask you to use the button at the bottom called Copilot. If you get stuck, so let's say you're trying to follow along and something isn't working, you can click Copilot. It opens a chat over here, and you can ask it questions or tell it, like, I don't know why, but mine is doing blah, 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 blah. And you can chat with it, and it will help you get unblocked. So again, if you get stuck, please don't just pound your head against the keyboard. I really want you to succeed, and so I want you to try Copilot if you are getting stuck during this build. Okay. We get all the time asks for our attention. I'm thinking about where most of mine come from, and I work somewhere where we use Slack all the time. As a matter of fact, if I open Slack right now, I can show you 2 asks that I have not been acting on yet because I think I need to deprioritize them, and they're just floating around here in Slack. So when I'm thinking about the way I work and how I can trigger an agent to wake up, the trigger that I'm going to choose today is a Slack trigger, because that's where most of my requests come in. So I'm clicking the button at the top, Add Trigger, to start the agent, and I see some of our most common apps. If I was trying to build something with an app I don't see here, I could just search for it, and I would see tons and tons of other apps show up, because again, we have more than 8,000. Luckily for me, Slack is right here at the top, so I'm going to click it. Click on Slack, and I get this whole menu of things that can wake up my agent. Man, some of these are really cool. Like every time I save a message, it could wake up. That's pretty cool. But the one that I'm going to use for today is I'm just going to use the one that lets me wake it up whenever I react to something. Because when requests come in, I acknowledge them with like a quick emoji. So that's an easy system for me to stay on top of. Just a quick emoji, that's all I have to do, no heavy lifting from me. I'm going to choose New Reaction Added in a channel as my trigger. New Reaction Added. And something I'll have to do, if this is my first time setting up any Zaps or agents or anything in Zapier with my Slack, I'll have to take a minute to authorize my Slack account. It will only take you about 25 seconds. So I'll pause for just a second while folks authorize Slack if you haven't already. If you don't see your name in the dropdown here, your account, it means you need to authorize it, and it'll look like this in the dropdown, a button that says Connect New Account. Connect new account will let you set up a new Slack account. An excellent opportunity for me to refill my tea as people do that. There are a lot of choices here on my new reaction added trigger. One is, do I want this agent to only wake up when that reaction comes in a specific channel? And when I think about my Slack work, I'm going to head back here to Slack. Requests came in this channel, but I can already see I have 19 other notifications. I probably have them across a lot of channels. So when I set up my agent, I'm going to leave this one blank. I don't want to pick one channel where my agent wakes up to take action. I'm going to let it take action anywhere. And then it asks what emoji, what reaction is going to wake my agent up. All right, back to Slack again here. I'm going to head back to Slack. And we all have different work environments. In my environment at work, we have probably 8 billion emojis. We have so many emojis. There are a lot I could choose. Screaming baby chick, pretty good choice. I think I'm going to pick one that's a little more neutral. I'm going to pick looking. I've seen at a lot of companies, if you react with looking, it lets someone know like, hey, I'm going to be looking at this request. So I'm just going to use that one because it's neutral and fine. Looking is the one I will choose. And you're going to pick whatever emoji feels right for you and just take note of the name. When I hover over it, I see the name of it looking at the bottom there. So I'm going to click it. Okay, that's the emoji I want to use. I'm going to head back into my agent and find that emoji. Again, mine is looking. You might have chosen a different emoji based on what's available in your Slack. That's fine. Just make sure whichever one you pick, you also go and look for here. So my Slack account is mine. Channel is blank. I want it to wake up anywhere. The reaction is looking. Now here's the most important part. It asks which member should wake up the agent. Sometimes we might have automations that we want anyone to be able to use. A good example is like, I'm throwing an end of year party. React to this message to get an invitation. And then no matter who reacts, the automation will run. The agent will wake up. But for this one, I'm setting up a personal workflow. So I want to make sure it only wakes up when I use this emoji, so that if Bryce uses the emoji, it will not wake up when he does. So we've got to look for ourselves here. I'm going to look up my name and I'm going to give it a few seconds. If you work at a workplace with a ton of Slack users, you're going to have to wait because it's loading all of the names of the people you work with. So I found myself after a little bit, it just had to load a few times. And the last field is message author. That one is about like who wrote the message. I want to leave that one blank too, so that no matter who is making the request, my agent will wake up. So as a recap, the first field, Slack account, we're setting up with our account. Next field is blank, doesn't matter what channel. The reaction is whatever emoji you picked from Slack. The member is you, the person who's running the workflow. And the author, we're just going to leave blank again. We want this to work no matter who wrote us the message. And now we're ready to hit the purple Add Trigger button, which will save all of these preferences. Woo! You remember our when-then statement, right? When something happens, then something happens. So in this case, when I react to a request in Slack, then I want help deprioritizing it. We've already done half the work. We did the when part. Our trigger is set up. When we add that new reaction in Slack. And I went ahead in Slack and I actually added that reaction in front of you. If you haven't done that yet, go ahead and find some message in Slack to react to now. It needs to be a message in a channel, not a DM, but use the emoji you picked so that you can test your agent as we build. Okay, go ahead and do that. And let's think about the second half of our sentence. When a new looking emoji is added to a message in Slack, then my agent's job is to help me deprioritize tasks that are like too ad hoc so that I can do work that's aligned to my top priorities. So I'm going to write it just like that. Okay, I'm going to say, here's my when then statement. Okay. When you're triggered by the Slack reaction, then, okay, I'm going to just fill it all in with natural human language. Then your job is to help me, and I'm Emily. I'm going to tell it just in case I ever get like mentioned in a channel. Okay. Me, Emily Mabie, to deprioritize ad hoc asks in favor of work that's aligned with my top priorities. I'm going to tell it to do that through a few steps. And here's a hot tip from me. AI loves reading lists. So if you can tell it like 1, 2, 3 in instructions, it does a really good job. So I'm just going to use 1, 2, 3 here. Again, like I would write in an email. So I'm going to tell it, okay, the way I want it to do that is I want it to first deeply process and understand my top priorities. Oh man, spelling in front of people is a sport. To learn all about my most important work. Thank you for the spelling sympathy in the chat. Number 2, after it like processes those priorities, then I want it to analyze why this ad hoc ask I've gotten would not be a good fit for the top priorities I'm working towards. Be really specific. Being specific helps with like the Slack message, right? Like, I'm not going to do this because of this reason, not because I'm mean. And number 3, I don't actually want this to write in the Slack thread. So, you know, here in Slack, Bryce has asked me to do something. I don't want a robot to come in and be like, Bryce, she's not doing that. I want it to DM me the sample language to use so that I can tell Bryce whether or not I'm going to work on this. So I'm going to have it send me a DM. I'm going to say, I'll have it write 2 DMs. One for me to send to Bryce and one for me to give a heads up to my team that like I'm modeling really good prioritization and just get their temperature check. I'm like, do you think this was an okay no? Because I find that really helpful. So I'm going to say, write 2 DMs to send to me, each including a link back to the original message. That way I can like click it and just go paste it if I like what it wrote. That triggered you to act. And I want to write, I wanted to write message A as like a super polite, like, hey, you know, Bryce, here's why I'm deprioritizing this ask. And here's where you could go instead. Like, here's a resource for you. I don't want to leave people hanging, but I do want to make sure if it's not aligned with my top work that I'm saying a polite no and giving a reason why and relating it directly back to those top priorities. So I'm going to say a polite, I'm just going to write it like that because AI can read it just fine. Here's why I'm deprioritizing this ask you made. And here's what you could do for resources and support instead for me to use as a response to the message that I gave you. And then I'll also say, relate the reasoning directly back to the priorities I've shared with you. Okay. And let's add and explain how this doesn't align with where Emily needs to be spending time? Or you know what, where I need to be spending my time. Okay. The other message, that's message A. The other message I wanted to send is the one for my team. I find this really helpful, right? In isolation, people pleasers, we are going to overthink this every single time. We really need to be sharing it with other people, sharing like, hey, I said no to this. Here's why. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback, because then other people on our team can help us grow that habit. Like, great job prioritizing. Great job redirecting people. Or like, wow, I want to work on that too. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that one. Like, you said no and no one was mad at you. I want to work on that too. So we're going to do that one too. We're going to say, this one is a draft heads up for me to send to my team members that acts as a gut check and an FYI for them on me saying no. There we go. We've got the whole when then sentence here. When you're triggered by the Slack reaction, then your job is to help me deprioritize ad hoc tasks in favor of top priorities by deeply processing and understanding my top priorities to learn about them, analyzing why this ask is not a good fit for my priorities and being really specific, and then writing 2 DMs to send to me that each include a link back to that message so I can click and go send them as necessary. Now, it is time for a quiz, people in the chat. If I go ahead and I publish this, or I go ahead and I test this, what's going to happen and why? Oh, I already saw it in the chat. People are ready. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Lots of correct answers. Wow, nothing's going to happen. We don't have the tools. We don't have the knowledge source. I love these answers. We have to give it the priorities so it knows what it's working towards. Absolutely. Wow, we got like 15 different versions of the correct answer here. We need to give it tools because it can't actually do these things. We need to give it a knowledge source so it knows what my priorities are. It is not going to be able to take action. If I go ahead and I push agent preview right now, which you can do with me, agent preview, test the agent. Because in Slack, I used my emoji, it's going to be able to wake up. It's going to find that message. But then look what it tells me. It's like, hey, Emily, I got to understand your priorities. Can you give them to me? And also, I will then be able to understand these things and create the messages. But if I told it, it still can't send them without the tools. You are exactly right. And Molly is crushing it in the chat, dropping the instructions in. If you joined late or you're somebody who types at a different speed, feel free to grab those and paste them into your agent. Thank you, Molly. All right. So you all nailed it. You crushed it. If we were to turn this agent on right now, it can't act. So let's give it some tools. I like to go line by line and read what I'm telling it to do to figure out where pieces are missing. Okay, so we already have our trigger. Let's keep reading. Your job is to help me deprioritize asks in favor of work that's aligned to my top priorities. Deeply process and understand my top priorities. Wow, it can't do that because it doesn't have them. Now, some of us work at companies where there are things like department memos that outline our priorities. I've got an example one right here that's like, hey, for the first half of this year, I'm on the people team. So like, here are some people team priorities. I don't have to rewrite anything. I can just hook this memo up to my agent directly. Some of us might have professional goals that they are working on. Here's an example from like me as a learning designer saying like, hey, one of my goals is to build one reusable learning framework or strengthen my use of data in learning design. If you've got your goals documented somewhere, if you've got your priorities documented somewhere, this is a great opportunity to use a knowledge source. A knowledge source in our agent is a document that's optimized for use with an agent. So our agent can read it really well and then use it to complete tasks. And when I click to add one, I see there are a lot of different types of knowledge sources we can use. I'm going to choose Google Docs, and I'm going to find that document That's the people team priorities. New Year's resolution. Okay, and the one that is called the professional goals. So I've got my professional goals as a document. I'll add that as a knowledge source. And the other one I'll add is my people. Oops, Emily. You got to hook up your Google Docs account, Emily. There we go. If you have never used Google Docs in an agent or a Zap, you are going to have to authorize it just like you did when you set up your Slack step, your Slack trigger. And that's just fine. Once again, it will take a few seconds, but it's worth it to have a knowledge source connected. And something I want to say is if you use a software to track your goals as a company, so for instance, at Zapier, we use small improvements. If you don't keep your goals in like a Google Doc, you could instead give your agent access to the tool where you do keep your goals. I'm just showing an example right now. We're not going to do this, but you could add in small improvements as a tool and tell your agent to go read your goals so it always knows what they are when they are, kept up to date and changing. In this case, the use of Google Docs is really helpful for me because if I ever go and change these goals, or if my department changes these priorities, my agent is always going to be synced on that document. So the document, it's not like uploading a file. The document can change and change and change, and the agent's always going to have access to it. Okay? So we're going to let our knowledge sources sync there for a minute, and we're going to keep reading and find out what tools we have to add. So step 1 is done. Step 2. Analyze why this ad hoc ask I've gotten is not a good fit and be specific. All right. Pop quiz number 2 in the chat. Do I need to add ChatGPT or Claude or an LLM to this step? Because it's saying I need to analyze something. Anybody know why I don't need to do that? We're filling up with no. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, all right, all right. We got good answers coming in. Yes, I love it. Fantastic. So we don't need to add an AI step for asking it to do anything that looks like thinking because you are right. It already has AI baked into the product, so we can keep on going. And now I get to step 3, write some DMs to send me in Slack. Whoop, it sure can't do that. It can't do that at all. We need to add a tool. So let's go ahead and do that. Up at the top of this box, if I scroll up a little bit, or just kidding, up at the bottom of the box, there's a button called Add Tool. That's one way to add your tool. You can also use the / key and it will pop up. I'm going to use the / key because that's what I'm used to, but clicking the button works just as well if you're a mouse person rather than a keyboard person. And for sending DMs, again, I work in Slack. So I'm going to choose Slack as my tool. I get a ton of options. Oh my gosh, it can do so many things. Remember how I said it could reply to Bryce, but I don't want it to? One thing we could have it do is we could have it just send him a message and say, like, she's not doing it. But that feels weird to me. So instead, I'm going to have it send me a message. I'm choosing the action called Send Direct Message. And you'll see a little button pops up right in my instructions. Look at that, Send Direct Message. I'm going to click the little gear to edit it because I want to adjust it just a little bit. I have my Slack account set up already because I authorized it for the trigger. I want it to send the message to me, to Emily. So instead of letting my agent choose, because I would hate for it to make a mistake and accidentally send this to somebody else, I'm going to find my own name. So I'm going to choose a specific value for the field. And just like before, I'm going to find me. There I am, Emily Mabie. I'm not going to fill in message text. I want the agent to write the message. That's kind of the whole point. But when you use Slack, I don't know if you've ever DM'd yourself in Slack, but you don't get a notification because Slack thinks you know you did that. So we want to make sure that this message is sent from a robot, not from ourselves, because if it is not sent from a robot, we will not get a notification. If it's sent to us from us, Slack assumes we've already read it. So when it says, do you want to send this as a bot instead of yourself? We are going to use the answer, yes. Yes, we do want this to be a bot. Then we get a bunch of options. We could name the bot. We could give it a cute little icon. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Instead, so far, just to recap, we have found ourselves as the to username, it's to me. We've chosen yes to send us a bot. And then this is personal preference, but I'm going to go all the way down to auto expand links. And I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to say no. Set a specific value for the field no, because I hate those previews that like fill up your Slack message. So I'm going to turn it off. I don't want auto expanded previews. Just me. You might think I am losing my mind and that it's the greatest thing ever, but I hate it. So one more time, to your name, send it as a bot is yes. And the only other thing we changed, auto expand links, we set a specific value to no. And then we're going to save it. My goodness, friends, we have a bot that we are ready to turn on. You might have noticed it even renames itself as you're working, as it like figures out what you're building, which is kind of cool. I'm going to encourage you to, if you're feeling ready, since it's just going to send a DM to you, there's not a like high level of risk here. You can just publish it. Or if you're feeling like, nope, I don't feel comfortable with that yet, you can test it in the agent preview window. So we'll click agent preview. And if I click test agent, what I will see is it will do step-by-step analysis and tell me what it's doing. And it will ask my permission before taking action because we're in the testing window. Now, don't worry. When you have published it and you're not in the testing window, it will take action without asking you. So it's not going to hold you up and like wait for your approval unless you wanted it to. But in this case, because I'm in the testing window, it will go one step at a time, let me know what it's doing. And before it sends a Slack DM, it will give me a heads up. So you can see now it's analyzing those Google Docs I gave it access to as knowledge sources. It's reading that request in Slack from my friend Bryce. It's even doing things like, oh, it sounds like a short turnaround, Emily. And now it's making a list of why this doesn't align with my priorities and getting ready to send me the 2 Slack messages. Now, here's that approve button. This is only happening because I'm in the testing window. If I'm not in the testing window, it will just do this without asking. If I just publish it and turn it on, it will work autonomously. That's the beauty of an agent. But in this case, I'm going to press the button and let it send me the DM. It said it's going to send me 2. So I'm going to just stick around here and see if I have to push it twice. You go ahead and test yours too, or publish them and try them out. All right, I'm approving my second message. Let's go to Slack and see them roll in, okay? Here we go. I'm over in Slack. I see these messages are coming through. Okay, so here it is. It says, hey, Bryce, thanks for thinking of me. I want to be thoughtful with how I'm spending my time and need to prioritize one-off requests like this one. Here's why. I've committed to design, and then it references my goals. I've committed to designing fewer courses with stronger learning outcomes, limiting myself to just 3 programs this half. That means every hour I spend on ad hoc deliverables is time I'm not doing blah, 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 blah. So then it tells Bryce what to do instead. We could schedule a quick alignment call instead of me drafting it so I can help you do it. We could, you could reach out to, and then I could drop in a name, or if this is a recurring need, we could talk about how to rebuild this into a reusable resource anyone can use. And then I say like, thanks for understanding, and let's click the link and see if it takes us to the right place. Yeah, then I could just paste it as a reply to Bryce right there. And it also gave me the team heads up. Hey team, I wanted to give you a heads up on how I'm approaching my work since we're all collaborating. Here are my goals. And that means I'm being more selective. This is not meant to be about being unavailable. I appreciate your partnership and support. Okay, great, great, great. So our agent's working. It's working. I tested it, it works, but there are a few improvements we could make. One that's really jumping out to me is I don't sound like this. I don't sound like that at all. I use emojis. I don't sound like a robot. And the other thing I'm thinking about is like, here's another ask from Bryce. And if I react to it, I'll use my looking emoji. What's going to happen is Bryce is like, hey, here's my ask. And then there's more information in the thread. Sometimes there are threads with like 75 replies, and then someone will ask me to do something. And right now, my agent, let's go take a look at the activity tab to see how it's running. It grabbed Bryce's message, but the only thing it saw was this part. Hey, quick ask by Wednesday. And it didn't see anything in the thread about what Bryce was asking. So it's not going to be able to be really specific about why I shouldn't do this. So when it's running, I want to make sure that it's always reading like the full Slack thread to understand the context. And B, I want it to actually sound like me and not a weird robot telling my friends no. So let's go back to our agent. We're letting it finish up that run. Let's go back to our agent. We've published it. It's working. Fantastic. That's great. That's a starting point. Remember, we're starting off simple, then we're adding complexity. So let's make it a little more complex. Before it writes its reply or anything else, I think the first thing I want it to do is I want it to actually analyze like all the Slack thread, not just whatever part of it I reacted to. So I'm going to turn this into my new step one. I'm going to say, read the whole Slack thread for context. That means that everything else is just going to have to add up a number. So step one becomes step two, step three becomes step four, etc. Okay? Read the whole Slack thread for context. Simple as that. But even though it can wake up when a new Slack reaction happens and it can send a Slack message, it cannot take this Slack action unless we let it, because agents cannot go rogue. We are not giving them the power to do everything. We give them their power one tool at a time. So let's add in this tool, Slack thread grabbing. So I'm going to use my little slash button, slash, add tools. I got to find Slack again. And this time I'm going to look for the word thread. All right. I'm going to use the action. Whee! Thanks for coming with me. Retrieve thread messages. Retrieve thread messages is the action I'm going to choose. Retrieve thread messages. I don't have to set up any of these fields because I already authorized Slack, so I'll just leave it as is. Read the whole Slack thread for context. So I give it the tool retrieve thread messages, and I want to make one more change. I mentioned this doesn't really sound like me. So I'm going to add one more step before I tell it to write the 2 DMs. Step number 4 is to personalize it. So it sounds like me. Read through the last several Slack messages I've sent to understand my voice, preferred emojis, etc. So you can draft messages that actually sound like me. All right, that changes our previous step 4 to step 5. Now again, we have not given it the power to go find my old Slack messages, right? We've given it the power to retrieve one thread, the power to send a message, but I've got to add in one more tool. It's Slack again, Slack. And I'm going to choose Okay, I'm going to choose find message because this one says it finds messages using the Slack search feature. So it'll be able to search by like Emily, maybe, right? By me, learning what I have sent. Okay. Whew. So we started with a real simple agent, 3 steps. Now our agent has 5 steps. We added in step 2 here. Nope, just kidding. Step 1 here. I'm losing it. Read the whole Slack thread for context. And we added in step 4. Read through the last few Slack messages I sent to understand my voice and emojis. And now we got to publish it again because right now it's on version number 1. So I'm going to publish it. If you didn't publish it yet, you can just publish it now. And I'm going to head back over here to that Slack message, right? Because before it wasn't able to grab the whole thread. And you can see it sent me a very non-specific set of messages to tell Bryce no without knowing what he was asking me to do. So let's go ahead and react one more time with looking. We'll watch it run. Ooh, let's go back to here. I'll put a divider in so we can see when it runs. And you can tell your agent is taking action by going back to the activity tab anytime you want, and you can see what's in progress and what it finished doing. So I'm going to open this one here. And I can see, all right, it's already retrieved all the messages in the thread. It got that first one, right? Quick ask by Wednesday. And then look at that. It found Bryce's other message. Can you review the chatbot prompting enablement and get feedback on it? I think it'll take about 20 minutes. Great, 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 great. Now it's reviewing my priorities. And as we're doing that, oh, fantastic. All right, it's loading my other priority set. As we're doing that, I want to remind you, if you are getting stuck anywhere along the way at all, at the bottom of your configure tab is that button called Copilot, and you can talk to it about what you'd like your agent to be able to do, what you're seeing. You can troubleshoot with it, you can build with it. So if you are getting stuck, please use Copilot so you're not just slamming your head against the keyboard. Okay, back to our agent. So it is now looking up old examples of my communication, and it can see my favorite emojis. My signature one is happy bread, which if you know me, you know. And now it's saying I have all the information I need to draft those messages. Let me send them. Okay, I'm heading back here. Oh, I got the first one already. Okay, this sounds way more like me. Hey, Bryce, thanks so much for thinking of me. It's got my signature emojis in it. I could just grab this, boop, go back to the original message, drop it in, and I'm done. Fantastic. It's going to send me that other one for my team, even more signature emojis. Reference, here's an example of the ask I'm declining. I could grab this whole thing and drop it in my team channel and show them how I'm setting an example by deprioritizing. Whoa, we got through it today, friends. Let's head back over to our deck for just a second. Next week, if you're joining us, you are going to learn how to use AI and automation for higher quality feedback, lighter lift performance reviews. So in the chat, I would love to hear what that would look like for you. Here are 2 examples. Number 1, an example is like, man, I never feel confident with how I'm actually performing. And what you could say after next week is, I know exactly where my peers and my manager feel like I stand. That'd be awesome. Or another example, man, right now, performance reviews take me so much time and stress. And after next week, that could turn into performance reviews are a light lift, and I am confident when I'm writing them. Wouldn't that be amazing? To make sure you're at that session, be here the same time next week with my fantastic colleague, Bryce Vernon. You'll join us that Thursday to build AI agents that capture feedback and accomplishments. Prepare for performance reviews. If you sat through this thinking, I wish Emily had shorter hair and wasn't wearing those glasses, you are in luck. Bryce covers those bases, and he's just great. So click that link to register. And then stick around. I'm going to answer a few questions here. And at the end, I'm going to drop a link to a deck of our AI for HR use cases, a whole booklet that you can just grab and go. But you got to stick around for a few minutes while I answer some questions at you. Bryce, do you mind sharing some questions for me to answer?
Hello, Emily. Thanks so much for leading us. This was great. Yeah, so a lot of good questions. Thanks everyone for throwing them in. I answered lots of them in the questions tab so you can look, but there are a few that would be good for you, Emily. So let's see. The first one is Nia Henry was asking, why are you including your name in the instructions? Didn't quite understand that.
Oh my gosh, that is a really good question. Okay, so I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes I'll see Slack threads where people are talking about me, but I have not been tagged. This is like for me to be a huge creep and like just kind of chime in with like, hey, thanks for even thinking of me. I won't be prioritizing that, even though you didn't officially bring me in yet. So no, thank you. So I just wanted to give it that context in case it's reading a whole thread and trying to figure out like which of you is deprioritizing this. Like Bryce gets mentioned, Emily's mentioned, Molly's mentioned. That's why. Good question.
Yeah, that makes sense. All the context is super helpful. Okay, I have another one here from Pogos. I have a staff handbook agent in Slack trained on a static PDF document. Can I swap out the PDF document for like a live website so it can answer questions from a set of URLs?
Yes. Okay. So if the URL is public facing, our agent will absolutely be able to find it. You just point it towards the right web address. Ooh, tongue twister. Ooh. If it is not public facing, our agent won't necessarily be able to visit the website, but wherever you populate that website from, wherever that information lives in like official notions or stuff like that, you can point it to. Great questions.
Cool. All right, maybe two more. One from Morgan. Does this only work in channels and not one-on-one messages? Because I think, Emily, a lot of people in the chat were saying they're not as good at doing threaded messages and public postings, so they're curious about that.
I love this. Okay, forgive me. We're going to screen share for a second. I love this question. Okay, this is, I'm going to say it's like advanced agent building because I feel like it's a really advanced question you have asked, but much like complex agents, it doesn't mean hard necessarily. So in our agent, our trigger right now is whenever there's a new reaction. You can actually build agents that hand off work to another agent. So what we could do instead, we could change this trigger completely and we could have it, there we go, Emily, that's the button. We could turn it into an on-demand agent, which is like anytime you wake up, do this thing. And then we could have other agents say that like, if you get an email request, then they pass it to this agent. If you get a Slack reaction, pass it to this agent. You can have different triggers instead of just one trigger waking up an agent. And the other thing I want to share is triggering via zaps. So you can build a zap that then eventually wakes up an agent. This is how I do my Slack DMs because you are correct. If you were looking in Slack and you're like, I want this agent to wake up when I do something in a direct message, you search direct, nothing comes up. But you can build a zap that's only job is to push messages that you send from direct messages over to this agent, in which case you would use trigger via zap and then create a zap that just has one job, which is waking up the agent from a Slack DM. I know that seems kind of level 2, but I am happy if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll just show you, I've got that zap set up for myself already because most of my requests come in a private message.
Nice. I learned something new today. It's great. Cool. Well, we're at time, so I think we could probably wrap up with the Q&A. Thanks for that, though.
Thank you so much, everybody. Those were some great questions. Thank you, Molly, Bryce, and everybody who answered stuff live. And thank you, participants. I hope we get to see you next week. In the meantime, if you stuck around, because you heard we were going to share one more thing, you're in luck. I almost forgot, Bryce. I'm so sorry. Ooh, I'm the worst. Let's go ahead and give the people what they want, that handbook. kudos to people who stuck around.
Love it. Cool. Yeah. You see the link there. Thank you all for joining. And thank you, Emily. This was great. So we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, everybody.